All right, guys, Mr. Adams again. This is going to be the last step. And the best advice that I can give that I gave a couple of kids, I think, is if you think about covering this essay as if you're writing like a reporter would write. So just like you would see reporters on the news, like saying like, this is Mr. Adams reporting for NBC5 with the latest updates. That's the best way to try to approach this from a mindset where you're covering modern pandemics as well as ancient pandemics, things we've already we know the whole story of the Black Death, but the way you approach it and tell it like it's a story that's unfolding right now is what's going to make this so much easier to write. So, for instance, like you could you could talk about one of these big quotes here from document one on the Black Death DBQ. Once again, Scary Crow guy. Talk about how like it first arrived in Italy and like have people all of a sudden these crazy symptoms popped up, what it would have been like to live through that and all of a sudden be scared as you start seeing everybody around you get sick and everybody start dying without any idea of what caused it or where it came from or how to stop it. This feeling of like helplessness, like that's the kind of emotion that should be jumping off the page that when you're using these quotes you then add in your own voice that it brings it to life. Um, so, for instance, like if I wanted to, I'll use this quote right in front of me. It destroyed countless lives, scarcely resting in one place before it moved to the next. And turning westward, it grew its strength monstrously. No human wisdom or foresight had any value. We had no idea, basically, how to stop it. You could then jump in with your own voice and say, I imagine all the different ideas people came up with, but nothing was working. Um, and then once again, you're using it to compare it to your modern. So, what was the kind of effect that we were feeling a couple of weeks ago when we were hearing about the rise of coronavirus? Or, for instance, when the 1918 flu broke out, what was a way that it like first took hold? The effect that it first had on people when it was like, whoa, this is a big deal, right? Um, so I had an example I wanted to use. This is a quote from the author Agnolo di Tura, who wrote about tragically having to bury five of his own kids. And the fear was that if he didn't dig the graves deep enough, then dogs would dig up the bodies and eat the bodies. And this had such a demoralizing effect on everyone around them that whenever anybody died, nobody cared anymore because they all assumed that they would all eventually die. That is such a that's such a powerful thing to have to write. And this is where then you can comment on your own thought process of like um, being anxious or scared or worrying about a loved one near you getting sick and not being able to recover. Um, what it would have been like to live through something like that where your whole world just stops. Imagine having to bury not only one of your own family members, but five of your own kids. Um, so there's a lot of raw emotions that these accounts should stir up in you. Um, Plagues on society bring out the absolute worst in people while also bringing us more humble than, down to earth than we've ever been because we are so out of control. So you can definitely bring these quotes to life with your own feelings and emotions, and especially in the conclusion part of your essay. This is where you're just wrapping everything up and kind of using your voice to give your understanding of what you've learned. So, this should be hopefully a help in explaining how to set up this essay, what direction you should take it in. Once again, think of it like you're a reporter. You're telling the story of what happened in the Black Death and comparing it to what is either happening now with coronavirus or what happened previously with these other crazy pandemics, such as Ebola or the 1918 flu. and what was the story? How did it unfold? How does it changed us or not changed us? Okay. That's the last video. Hopefully these are helpful. And if you have any questions, just send me a snap face.